Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at Guadalcanal, a realistic game of U.S. Marine Corps action, August 7th, 1942. The game was published by the Avalon Hill Game Company at the time, and it's dated 1966. I have the second edition here, and this will be my first look at the game and the first playing of it. Pretty much uses the old standard Avalon Hill counters, rules, and maps at the time. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of the rules and the maps and the counters, and then we'll try out a turn or two and see how it goes. The game comes with two instruction manuals. The one I have here is the basic game instructions. It's only 4 pages long, printed on non-glossy paper, and it pretty much just goes through the basics that most of the games back in that era by Avalon Hill used. They used the quaint, the quaint way of calling hexes squares. I guess hexagons were fairly new at that time, so people understood squares better than they understood hexagons. Like I said, it's 4 pages long. Your basic information on a counter. You can see this. I guess I got it zoomed about as far as it's going to go. You have the type of unit, which is an infantry unit here. You have the superior unit, which is the first, first regiment. You have the combat factor over here, which is a 5. The size is a battalion. The actual battalion's number is 1, so it's the first battalion of the first regiment. And over here is its movement allowance. Well, let's see. Game sequence of play is pretty simple. The game starts on the 7th of August. The U.S. player will look at his order of appearance card and then place any reinforcements which may be due to him. Then he will move, and then we'll have all battles by the Allied player. Then the Japanese player is pretty much the same. He'll put reinforcements, he'll move, and then he'll do combat. Movement and combat and zones of control are all pretty standard in the basic game. Nothing really new here that you haven't seen before in an Avalon Hill early game. Tells you how to resolve battles. Once you play this, tells you how to go on to the battle manual. There are no terrain effects in the basic game. This is the battle manual, which I'll have to back up here just a little bit for you to see. But as you can tell, this is the battle manual. It's about a 15-page booklet that details the tournament game and some optional rules and stuff. These are for the tournament game. Sorry, move my camera up here so you can see something a little clearer anyway. It may not be in focus, but you can see it clear. Anyway, they still give you the same information. They break down the different types. They become a little bit more important during play in the tournament game. This one gives you the, I don't know if you can see it clearly enough, but this one has movement, and it also incorporates terrain effects. And let's see, basically the terrain effects, kind of like movement points in the old game, and the cost to enter terrain, cost varying amounts of the movement points. Then down here we have, I don't know if you can see that, I guess you can, zones of control. Zones of control in this particular tournament level do not extend into jungle hexes. They extend out of jungle hexes, but not into. So that's pretty much that. Don't know if there's any other restrictions other than that for combat. So the next page real quick. Here we have casualty table up here at the top, which you probably can't see. But anyway, we dispense with the attacker back and all that type of stuff that you get in the normal classic CRTs of this era. They introduce what we call casualties, whereas units lose combat strength through casualties, which you record on one of these sheets. Casualty reduction basically is what it is. Just find the unit, and let's pick one you can see. Like 1st Battalion of the 4th Regiment of the Japanese. It has a strength of 4, so it's got 4 boxes, and as it takes losses, you'll mark off the boxes until you mark them all off, and then the unit's destroyed. Hey, that's pretty much how it works. These used to be 2 separate sheets. I just stuck them together on my scanner copier thingy, and made one for the U.S. Marine and Army troops, and one for the Imperial Japanese troops. Anyway, losses will be taken incrementally now instead of just all or nothing. Then we have artillery fire. In this case, artillery units will fire targets up to 7 hexes, and let's see, based upon the number of factors of artillery fire, you'll look over on this chart over here, and it'll tell you the number of factors firing, the number of step points in, or factors in a hex, and a die roll would determine various effects of the artillery. And it tells you how to win. Tournament version of Guadalcanal is based on a point system. The player having the most points at the end of the 29 January 1943 turn wins the game. Japanese player receives points for eliminating American factors, occupying Henderson Field, getting Henderson Field within 7 hexes of an artillery unit. And let's see, the Americans win 2 points for every Japanese factor eliminated, 3 points every turn that the player occupies Henderson Field, and that's defined as having a unit on the field. Blah blah blah, yada yada yada. We have some optional rules. I don't know if you can see these or not. I always have trouble wondering if my light is bright enough. It looks terrible on my display. Where they introduce hidden movement, which I won't be using. There's also supply, which I probably will be using. It mostly affects artillery fire. I'm not sure how it affects actual units. If it does, it may just be for artillery fire. And let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, only artillery units have to worry about artillery, supply, whatever. And then we have the units of, let's see, the units of, I'm going to get here somewhere, units of fire replenishment table. And then we have artillery range based on the type of unit. If that stuff's coming in clear or not. And then they also have the psychological effects table, which deals with morale, drop in morale, fatigue, disease, that type of thing. I probably won't be using this because it's just, I don't know, just not something I want to use. Then we have withdraw. Japanese player can start to withdraw units from Guadalcanal starting on a certain game turn. I don't know, there must be some kind of victory victory thing in there that makes that, uses that rule. Excuse me. And we also have the withdrawal of the 1st Marine Division. We have unit specialization where the LVTs, amphibious tractors, can cross rivers without delay and basically act as a bridge. We have engineers, which also act as bridges, and under certain conditions. Then we have diagrams of play that show you, how to play the game, examples, that type of thing. That's pretty much it. We have an appendix down here that tells you what happens during combat, how artillery works, all that type of stuff. The old play-by-mail rules. I sure miss those, but I guess today's methods are a lot more effective for today's audience. Anyway, that's the rules. I'll show you the map and counters here in a moment. Okay, here we have an example of the map. The map is glossy coated paper and it's mounted, as was typical back in the day. Some of the different terrain types are, and I may not call them the right name, but I know what they mean. Let's see if I can get back to the terrain tables here. Let's see, over here, basically clear, the all white ones. Jungle are these little green splotches, and as you can imagine, they take up most of the map. Let's see, yeah, these are slopes that come down, indicating the hilltops here. And we have coastal squares, which are these over here, which contain part clear and part water. And let's see, roads. There are some examples of roads. I'll just have to find one up here without getting too crazy. Let's see if I can zoom in anymore. Oh, I think that's it. Roads are these double lines right here. See them very well. And we also have rivers which run down the center of a hex. And there are certain kind of rules for that. Basically, you're on one side of the river or the other, and combat is also affected that way. And then we have villages, I think they're called, like, let's see, Tinavatu, Tinaroo. Here's Henderson Fields, which is, of course, off map. Oh, sorry. That's what I get for buying these cheap Amazon tripods. And anyway, here's Henderson Field. Looks like it fits in one hex in this game. It is, like I said, a victory condition. So I'm sure it will be hotly contested over. When I come back, I'll show you some of the counters, and then we'll go over the order of appearance tracks, which basically just where you put your units until they appear on the board. And then we have a turn track, and we'll have a combat results table. So just a moment. Okay, here's an example of the playing pieces, the actual counters we'll be using in the game. They're printed on a glossy coated, fairly thick, as Avalon Hill used to make them. Let's see, pretty much already explained the numerical and symbology of the counters, but I'll just go over them here real quick since these are the real things. This is part of the 27th Regiment. It's the 1st Battalion. Battalion is indicated by the battalion indicator symbol. It's an infantry unit. I believe these are the Army units, these lighter blue ones, whatever. And then we have a combat strength of 4 and a movement allowance of 10. As the unit takes damage, of course, this 4 will go down to a 3, 2, and a 1. And that'll be kept track of on the casualty reduction sheets. This is an artillery unit. It contains pretty much the same information, except these are like at, what, brigade or division level, something like that, so they don't have a higher unit organization. This one has a strength of 2 with a movement allowance of 8, and they can fire up to 7 hexes. It seems like a lot, but I'm not quite sure of the hex scale on here either. So this is an engineer unit. Once again, it's kind of an independent unit. It has the engineer symbol, and it has a movement rating of 3, or combat rating of 3, and a movement rating of 10. And like I said, as they take casualties, those ratings will decrease, making them less and less effective. So other than that, that's pretty much it for the counters. Let's come over here real quick. Hopefully not moving too fast. The green ones up there are Marine. The blue ones are, like I said, Army. And this is basically the holding track and the order of appearance track. Japanese is similar. I don't have the units on it yet, though, as you can tell. And then we have the classified turn record track. Just indicates what turn it is, any reinforcements that are due, and that's pretty much it. I don't know how I made this, but this is one that I apparently made, since I actually have my name up here. But I'm not sure how I got the classified on there or where this all came from, but it's version 1 prepared by me back in 2010. Last time I took a look at this game, so I don't remember it, but I know I've never played it. So anyway, with that being said, I think that covers most of the major components. The last thing I guess we can look at is the, let's see, we'll look at the, what is it? Where am I? I've lost myself. That's some serious glare. This is the different terrain effects, not that you can see them. Let's see. I get some light here. And it still doesn't do a whole lot for it, but anyway, I don't know if that's in clear view or not, but trust me, this just has what terrain effects are on moving and the defense factors of the units traversing that type of terrain. And on the back, we have, yeah, that's a lot of glare. I tell you what, person that can invent lighting above you that does not produce glare will be very wealthy. Anyway, this is the casualty table for the tournament game. You'll notice, hopefully, that the table uses combat factor losses as well as retreats. Combat factor losses are marked by the smaller numerals, of which I need to reactivate my screen here before it goes to sleep. Okay, back into the swing of things here. Okay, smaller numbers represent losses. The larger numbers in bold also represent losses, but they also are mandatory retreats. And there's a little table. Where's it all at here? Oh, it's all over the place. There's a table here that kind of explains all that for the tournament game. And with that, I'll just show you the basic game combat table. This is kind of the Avalon Hill basic game. DLM, D back 2, exchange, A back 2. pretty much your standard stuff for the Avalon Hill era that this came from. So, I'm going to try and get the Japanese set up, read a few articles from the General Magazine on strategy, tactics. There's also a few that introduce, like I say, they introduce ships and planes. I may tinker with those, but I don't know how much I'll actually play the game with them, since that will require me crafting up those counters, which, you know, I don't mind doing. Kind of fun, but also time consuming. And with the rate that I put out a video, well, it could be some time into next year before I get started. So, anyway, see if I can get a picture of me. It's my own little selfie. There I am. So, until further ado, I'm going to go ahead and finish off the counter, uh, finish off placing the counters, and we'll get started. So, hopefully, we'll be doing that this week. Until then, see you later.